Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest-running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasevich.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. So this week you're joined by myself, Christian Karasevich, and my co-host, Sara Munro. Sara, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. So obviously, this is episode 312. We always like to talk about social media news. And of course, this week, we know that the big news was the fact that Facebook was down.
Yes.
For a long time, actually.
Yes.
And I don't look at it as like, oh, I don't care like how much like, the personal investments, like I don't necessarily care about that sort of thing. It's a big, it was a big deal, I think, right?
It was a big deal. And not just, the United States, certainly it was a disruption, and there are businesses that lost business and sales, people who have all their shops on Facebook. But really hearing the news of overseas and places like India, where families use Messenger really as their main communication source. These aren't people who have a backup landline or backup email or other ways to stay in touch with people. Facebook Messenger is a big lifeline for a lot of other countries. WhatsApp, even more so. I should have said WhatsApp is huge in India and other countries. And so this was a really big communications hiccup for everybody. Well, more so than a hiccup, really. But it just goes to show, for some countries, having Facebook out is like having the internet go down, right? In the US. Right? So you and I were talking before the show. We remember when the Dyn servers went down, 5 years ago or something like that, and took out the entire Northeast internet infrastructure, just from this one mill in Manchester, New Hampshire, that lost their pipe, their communications pipe, and just took down a lot. And that was a lot of scary stuff too. That was things like power companies and things like that. So, but Facebook going down was a huge issue for a lot of other countries. It was an inconvenience, I think, in North America, in Europe. We all talked about
normal
what
life.
We did. I know what we did instead. We went for a walk. We actually called somebody.
Yeah.
We dialed the phone, right? So Facebook has been in the news a lot this week. It is actually pretty much half of our show this week. Talk about Facebook.
And so here's what we're going to do, by the way. So just kind of a quick rundown to everyone. So we talk about the latest news each week. This week, we're going to be talking about Reels on Facebook. By the way, Sara, you totally got to tell me next time you're using the mug. I got the same mug, I think. Not this one, but I have the same mug. And
I usually have my little Space Invader on the bottom. I don't have my Space Invader this morning.
So we're going to talk about the latest social media news. Obviously, the big thing is that Facebook was down for a good chunk of, it was a big chunk of the day, almost like the whole day. But what we want to talk about first is we want to talk about Reels on Facebook. So we are going to talk about Reels on Facebook. We are going to tackle some questions though about, how your business can help mitigate some of those risks if Facebook does go down, because I'm looking at some comments here, and NLTMW saying a wake up call to many.
It really is.
And we'll get into this in a few minutes. But it definitely was a big thing. But hey, Facebook has Reels on Facebook. By the way, for those of you, we were going to have Amanda Robinson join. I think she might have had some technical issues. So we're going to, if she joins, we'll bring her in. If not, we'll make sure we get her back for another episode. Obviously, that's the other thing. Facebook went down, and even though it came back up, there are still ripples happening across the board about certain things. So very, very, very interesting topic. So Sara, I'm turning it over to you. I know we said we want to talk about Reels. where do we go first?
Right. We do want to talk about Reels. And it's funny because a friend of mine and I have been messaging back and forth. Actually, a guest on the show, one of the more frequent guests, Dorian Morin Van Dam, had Facebook Reels as soon as, I think she had it like 2 weeks ago, I want to say. But she doesn't have Instagram Reels, which makes no sense. Right. And I had the opposite. So we were kind of joking around in comments about her Facebook Reel, but and it may be that, some people use VPNs, and so Facebook Reels may be more familiar to them, but it is definitely new. I don't think you've seen them. We talked about this a little bit. I don't think you've seen them much on your Facebook profile. No, I started seeing them on Friday, and it's really interesting how things moved around. So let's go to the news. Big announcement. Facebook Reels is here. Facebook actually has a blog post to announce it. And they're going to look like all the other short form videos that we've seen. It's a vertical format. It is short videos, a lot of audio, a lot of creativity, and a lot of TikTok logos appearing. And I'm sure eventually Facebook will say, we want you to have clean content. We don't want to see the TikTok logo. Instagram has been saying we will start to downrank Reels that have the TikTok video in it, because as we all know, the AI knows and can seize that little TikTok logo on the side of your vertical video. So how Reels work, they're going to show up in a special section of your feed. I actually took some screenshots of my feed so that you can see it. So as you scroll down if you go to the next slide, Christian, I think that's nope, sorry. I don't have the slide. Okay. Talk about, we got to love technical difficulties, because Canva was not cooperating with me this morning either. So anyway, it's going to look kind of like how stories look across the top of your feed, but it appears about, I'd say after 3 or 4 posts, you're going to see, again, a horizontal section with the little clips that go across. So, so it's just, a little more familiar with stories, I think, on Facebook than we are. So it's going to look a lot like that, is what I'm trying to say. And it's going to look like a vertical video. Actually, that the screenshot to the right kind of looks like that section. Yeah. And the way to create a reel, I've been watching my post box. When you open up the box to create a post on Facebook, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be a section in there. It's going to give me the option to create a reel. No. You actually have to see that Reels widget in the middle of your news feed, and it's going to say create or my Reels. We put a big green arrow next to it, and that's where you create a reel. Or when you're watching a reel, you'll see in the upper right corner, you'll see your profile picture and then another little icon, and that's where you press to create your own reel when you're in the Reels, looking at the Reels. So right now it's a little clunky as far as how you create a reel. It's not quite as seamless as Instagram, when you just sort of open up to create a post and you can choose a story, a post, or a reel. So it is a little clunky, but I'm sure it's going to smooth itself out. And as it does that, I think I'm not alone in knowing and experiencing very slow Facebook uploads right now. So, and to some extent Messenger too. Some things are going kind of funky on me on Messenger this week as well. So that's where you create a reel, and you can watch them. You can scroll through. Right now, Facebook is mostly just suggesting the public reels that are out there. But when you create a reel, it's going to have all the fun bells and whistles that you have as Instagram reels. So you can layer on your own audio. You can use audio from other public reels. They also have some fun effects that you can add, and certainly music and text and all of those other layers that we're familiar with. You can also stitch together multiple clips or stills into one reel. Again, just like Instagram. And we also tweeted out Facebook's announcement. So if you go to the Social Chefs Twitter account, you'll see we posted that blog post from Facebook that gives you all the links on how to create reels. So really, Facebook has done it. The short form video is now everywhere. It's on YouTube and Facebook and Reddit even, right? Reddit has shorts too, I think now. So they're all over the place. I think I'm wrong about Reddit, aren't I, Christian? I might be.
I don't think Reddit has reels.
They have stories.
They were getting into live video, I think. Remember?
Yeah, live video.
Because Reddit and live video totally work because on Reddit, people are totally they're totally transparent on Reddit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Really not. So.
Exactly. But it goes to show, we're trying to keep up with who has the short form video now. And it's hard to remember everybody, right? And hard to remember where stories are too. Twitter and LinkedIn had stories and now they're getting rid of stories. So we'll see what this test is. Another thing to remember, Reels is going to be available to Facebook groups. And and
they are enabled, I think, right?
Yep, it is enabled in groups. I'm not sure about Messenger. I was a little uncertain about whether or not you can share Reels and or create Reels in Messenger, but you can certainly share Reels to Messenger. And I've had some fun over the weekend. Christian, you can attest to it. I've sent you some funny Reels.
That actually was pretty good, by the way. I don't know. Let's put that one in the blog post, I think.
We can put it in the blog post. There is not safe for work language in it, but just once. But it is a pretty funny creator that did it. So,
absolutely.
So it will be interesting. I think what's going to be interesting, what I've seen has been a lot of just sort of mindless stuff. Facebook doesn't really know what to serve up for Reels for me yet, but it's now getting to where, okay, we know what Sara likes. And so let's start showing her things from, I watch a lot of zoo videos and aquarium videos and things like that. So they're starting to show me those kinds of things. And I think we'll see more creators that have substantive content. Some of the ones on TikTok that are, I know that there's a big user group on TikTok among Indigenous voices and among health educators and attorneys and some people who are really trying to put out good public information. I think Facebook just needs some time to catch up because not most countries don't have Reels yet. So, and I think only the U.S. is the only country in North America that has Reels right now.
Yes, and I gotta say this. I mean, this brings up a question, at least from me, and it's the fact that I love the idea. I really like the idea of people making Reels content, making short form content, making, for example, if you're a teacher, there's so many industries here that can work. Like it, obviously we focus the show on business. So for example, if you're a coach, it's a great way for you to create like little tutorials about certain things. And they don't have to, like, if you're a social media coach, for example, you may be making Reels content that are, a quick step-by-step tutorial. Or if you're, let's say you're a chef, for example, or you like cooking, or you have a cooking blog or anything like that, you're making some Reels content showing some recipes. Hint, hint, by the way, that might be one of the examples that we wanted to share on the blog. But if you're a teacher, for example, and you teach kids, for example, or like maybe you teach things for parents, you could do that in your Reels content. You could even go into so you talk about law. If you're a lawyer, for example, leverage your knowledge, like get yourself in a nice setting, for example, record some Reels content that maybe goes into further detail about questions people might have. For example, if you're a doctor or a nurse, talk about how a lot of times it's really confusing for the patient to understand complicated terminology. Maybe your Reels content break down what that actually means, for example. Or, hey, if you're somebody that suffers from, XYZ, here are some preventative things you could be doing.
Right.
So is there anything
Right.
else you can think of that we should like maybe consider making for Reels content?
Well, I think it's a way to supplement what you're doing as far as video content goes.
Okay.
So, um, and what the long story about it is, I've seen a lot of TikTokers now go to YouTube because TikTok is vertical short form video, right? And the TikTokers are realizing my audience wants longer content from me. And so they're going over to YouTube.
Yes.
What's good about Facebook is that your reels can be those snippets. It can be those snacks, those teasers that draw people in, and then they find your full profile that has longer form video, that has links out to your websites, that has calls to action like contact us, call us, book an appointment, all those great buttons that Facebook has. I think we can all sort of roll our eyes about how we feel about Reels and how much we really think we're going to use it, but it's very discoverable.
Yeah.
A lot of people like the content. They like that it's short. And because it's attached to your profile or your business page, right now I haven't seen any businesses.
I haven't either, but I think it will come at some point.
It's coming. We know it's coming, right? So I haven't seen it on business pages, but it's going to be a way to draw people to that, right?
Definitely. And so speaking of business, by the way, so like we gave some examples. We don't know if this is it's not specifically on pages at the moment. So if you're going to do this on your profile, why not start to like, this is where you may want to get into doing some branding. So for example, if you've got merch, for example,
right,
we've got some, we're working on that, by the way. So if you've got merch for certain things, have some merch displayed in your background of your Reels content. So that way you can start your reel off with like, hey, I'm Sara Munro with XYZ company, or, and today I'm going to get into Reels. I'm gonna start doing some Reels and start tell them what your Reels are going to be about. And then start making them and having a little bit of branding here or there so that it can get back to, your page at that point. Again, I like this. I mean, it's almost like window shopping. It's an ad that you see essentially. It's an ad, it's a video, it's catchy, entertaining content.
Right.
That then can get you back to your page or get them to want to get in touch with you.
Right.
So.
Right. And right now, I think most people are going to see public Reels because a lot of us, unless you are very much a creator, you probably aren't using them just yet.
No.
Or you're really a social media manager or really pushing out some social medias, all the bells and whistles. You may not see Reels from your friends and family yet, but like it's adding to your point about sharing and saying that you're with XYZ company. It's also a great way to say, hey, I'm doing this great work. Right now I'm working on a big event. It's a lot of fun and it's interesting. And I'm actually working with some of the people that I'm connected with on Facebook. So I could do a quick little reel of how, behind the scenes event production and send people off to that event to get tickets. Right. So that's one way that I, as a person, can promote that. Because our friends and family want to support what we're doing, right? I talk to a lot of solo business people who say, I feel kind of weird about posting about my business or sharing a business post on my personal page. But whenever I do it, I get dozens of my friends and my long lost cousins who cheer me on and say, way to go, good luck with it. Tell us what happens next, right? So, putting things out on your personal profile about your business is great. It's a great thing to do.
It is. And just kind of to clarify that, because there are some things you want to make sure you consider if you're going to be sharing things to your profile. You typically you don't want to do this route. So this is the option. This is the way most people do it. So option one, people just post it on their profile that they've got something related to their business. Option two, though, is to post it on your Facebook page and share it back to your profile. Yes, it's an extra step, but Facebook tends to prefer option two. They don't necessarily want you going to your profile and your profile being all about your business. So they do, they're cool with like you sharing it back from a business page, but they don't necessarily want you going to your profile and saying, well, hey, making it all about business basically. Right. So keep that in mind. But that is an excellent recommendation, Sara.
Right. Yeah, because Facebook has always wanted to be the personal social network, right? And has always said that people are behind their network. And that's why they've always insisted that businesses have personal profiles managing the business pages. So, we hear countless times a week about people with dummy accounts on Facebook that manage the business page. And Facebook will take you down. Yeah. If they can figure it out, they will take you down. And the other thing is they will clear out accounts that have been very quiet for a long time too. So knowing that that's probably either someone who's a fake account or someone who's dead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I gotta say, I've never really understood. Let's not get off topic, but I've never really understood why somebody doesn't want to be like associated. I mean, I guess if you're doing something that you typically start a business because it's something you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So but if you're not passionate about it and you want to sort of hide, unless it's something that's illegal, if you're hiding behind it, I guess I don't understand that. You want business, but you also you only get that if you tell people about it. So I don't know. I've never really understood why people have been hey, I don't want to have my, personal profile associated with my company that I work for. I'm managing their social media. Why not? I don't know. Right. I don't understand that. So,
well, and it's not like you have to make it public too. Right. That used to be an option. I don't know if you can do that anymore, but you used to be able to light up who are your page managers so that people could see, oh, I know this person. So if you have a good reputation, if you have good people, you can show these are the people behind our page. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that exists anymore. I don't know if that's still active. Maybe we've got a few people commenting. Maybe they know if they've seen it or they're still using it. So, yeah.
Well, so I will say the one thing they did was they do have the ability now where they can see where somebody's managing from.
Yes. Yep.
But again, it still comes back to unless you're doing something that there's a legitimate reason. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything wrong with it. If you have somebody that manages your account from the Philippines, for example, because that's where a lot of people hire a lot of virtual assistants from, big deal. Mm-hmm.
Right.
It also sort of shows you're global.
It shows that you're global. Yep. In some instances, if that's good for your brand. I worked for a company that really prided itself on being local and never hired overseas designers or coders, right? That was part of our selling proposition was that we are all local and we don't outsource overseas. But like you said, if you are a global entity, it doesn't matter. And it may actually show, your key person is located in North America and your support team is in the Philippines. And then you have an event manager in Europe. And I actually know of an account that's like that. So it's really, it gives a little more transparency. The other thing is if you're using a VPN, you can say that you're from anywhere really. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So Facebook Reels, one last question I think we have for our viewers, and it's, are you using, or do you think you're going to use Facebook? We actually have two things. One is, do you think you're going to use Facebook Reels when it comes out? Mm-hmm. So let us know in the comments. And the second question I have, Sarah, and this is just to share, you can just share a tip with viewers. So we know that LinkedIn had Reels, LinkedIn
Stories.
Sorry.
Yep. It's confusing. Come on, we got
Real stories. Okay.
Just embrace the fact it's been a confusing summer.
It's probably going to actually be, Facebook's going to probably combine all these at some point and say we know what they're going to call this. But so I guess my question is, okay, so if I can create Reels on all the different platforms, what do you think? Do you think I should be should I make it a daily habit of making Reels content for every single platform? Or do you think I should try to focus on getting really, really, really good, sharpening that saw on one social media platform?
I think it comes back to that age-old question, where is your audience and where do you want to connect with people? What I would say is if you think you will repurpose this content in other platforms, then build it in a platform that doesn't watermark it. So that means don't build it in TikTok.
Right.
Or if you do build it in TikTok, find a way to mask that logo, because Instagram and Facebook aren't going to like it. YouTube is tolerating it, but we don't know for how long, right?
Right.
And also appreciate the ecosystem that you're in, right?
I like that.
Yeah, that Facebook is a little different than Instagram and is a little different than TikTok too. So this is really different from Facebook. That's what I felt when I was consuming some of the reels over the weekend. And I've been consuming reel-like content on YouTube for a few months now in their shorts videos. And it's a lot of TikTokers, right? But not all of them. And right now it's a little bit of a mess with what's coming into the Facebook reel content and Facebook figuring out what I'll like, right? So know what people will like, right? What has been top performing video content or instructional content on your business pages, and make a reel about that. Or at least plan for it. Right now, we don't see it on business pages. So you've got some time to build this out.
Yeah.
Also know that if you have a more professional business, you do get some traction on Facebook. Know that LinkedIn is going to have some kind of vertical video option coming up. We know that for sure. And because they've eliminated stories, they have jump rope. We know that they have a vertical video or vertical slideshow kind of tools in their back pocket. So we know that other platforms are going to do this. It's a way to be seen a little bit more. And just remember what your presence is on that platform. LinkedIn's probably a little more professional. Facebook may be a little more fun. YouTube could be even more fun. Remember that there's great SEO value for YouTube. And Facebook eventually, I'm sure Facebook will eventually have some SEO value, because Facebook is its own search engine. So that's my tip.
And then my last tip on Reels on Facebook, and I'm going to kind of piggyback off of the thing you talked about TikTok real quick. And it's have a plan in place for short and long form videos. And what I mean by that is, for example, just think of it like this. Let's think about a movie. Okay. So a movie, it consists of, they make the movie and then they make the trailer. Pretty sure that's the direction they do it. So when they make the movie, they know, think about it like this. The trailer, every single trailer you make is selling the movie. So for example, you watch a movie trailer, and there's sometimes there's two trailers, and then there's a red band trailer. Red band trailer is usually one that's like NSFW, all these acronyms, right? So it's usually typically like something that might have some explicit content or things like that in it, right? So they'll make different versions of a trailer, and then they see which one kind of tends to drive, or they try to see which one drives the most to the movie. Obviously, that's a little hard to kind of pick up on. But if you're doing Reels content and you're doing long form video content, make your long form videos. So have a long form video plan. This is your video that goes on YouTube, for example. It's your Facebook Lives, all that sort of stuff. And then make Reels content that drives back to some of that long form video content. So don't just, and you can go the opposite way. You can make Reels content and say, hey, you know what? That's actually, if it's performing really well on Reels, put it up on YouTube. I'll give you a very quick example. So I like movies a lot, and there's a channel I watch, and it's all about movie props. And the guy makes a lot. He started off making short form YouTube shorts. Basically, he was making short form YouTube, basically essentially like Facebook Reels. He was making short form YouTube Reels content. Sorry, man, I've already got it mixed up. He was making YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
And driving and then he said, hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And his YouTube channel then can go into more of the process.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Bringing that back to Facebook. If you're going to start with short form Facebook Reels and then consider making a longer video, or if you've already got some of those longer videos, remember, you can always chop them up and make them content for Facebook Reels also.
Right.
You go both
What?
and test.
Yeah. And you know what I'm thinking? There was a tool
Sure.
that we talked about a couple months ago.
I know which one you're talking about. Exactly.
And
Yes.
what one is it? It tracks the motion. You can actually create a vertical video, or any size video for that matter, but you can really do a vertical video from a landscape video.
It was actually a really awesome tool.
It was a great tool. We'll have to find it. If we can't find it, we'll put it in the blog.
I'll find it.
Okay? Keep talking. But that's a great, yeah. I think we've talked about it a couple of times in this show about using this to repurpose. And again, Reels isn't on business pages yet. We want to be really clear that everybody knows we're not announcing that Reels are on business pages. But it is a great way to add it to your social media plan.
I got to say,
how you do your video content.
Hold on. Was it, you know what it was? It was Kamua.
Yes, that's what it was.
And I'm going to put a link to this, by the way. So to everybody who is watching, if you want to create content, and by the way, interestingly enough, I just popped up their website and they have Reels listed as an option. So, let me see if I can just put a note. Awesome. So I'll make a note of this, but yeah, so you can basically quickly create Reels content and repurpose for other platforms with a tool called Kamua.
Right.
A paid tool, by the way, so it's not free, but it's pretty awesome because it actually it could even take like this video, and then let's say we were doing something, it actually will track you in the video. So it's pretty cool. So check that out. Okay.
Right.
Sarah.
Right. All right.
We talked Facebook Reels. What's next?
Okay, so we're gonna stick on Facebook for a couple more topics.
Okay. Sure.
The next one is that they've announced this before, that they're going to add cross-platform messaging, or they are implementing cross-platform messaging. So when I say that, that's within the Facebook family of apps. So Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp, you're going to be able to message across. So for instance, if you're messaging in Instagram and you want to include someone who is one of your Facebook contacts, you can message them together. They're saying that this is rolled out. I haven't seen it yet. So I can't speak to how it actually works. But they've been talking about this for a couple of months now. We've spoken about it a few weeks ago. But they're going to make it easier to message across apps for people. And if you remember, Facebook Business Suite now has integrated inboxes. So this is something that's coming to the personal profiles. The announcement didn't say a lot about WhatsApp, but we already know that WhatsApp can be integrated into your inbox on Facebook Business Suite. So I'm guessing that's going to be a way to message across. And I don't know, it seems to me like Facebook is consolidating the messaging options. Is that what it feels like to you, Christian?
It does. And that's actually exactly what I think it's going to be. I think that, Facebook's going to be they've already started this a few years ago. They started consolidating WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook. And there's a lot, there's so many vehicles you have to move on that. It's like that's a whole, almost like a dealership that they have to move, because there's there's the messenger feed. So that's exactly what my takeaway is with this, is that, they're moving the pieces, it's a sort of like a chess piece, I guess. They're moving the pieces to kind of get them in place for the broader strategy.
Right.
So I don't know. How do you feel, by the way, about everything being consolidated?
Before this show, I was trying to put together an email list for someone, and I had to pull contacts from Gmail, which, email's something different. But then I had to go to Instagram Messenger and find that email address from someone who direct messaged me on Instagram. Yeah. And then I had to go to Facebook because I had another speaker who's on Facebook Messenger. Yeah. And I don't use WhatsApp a lot yet, but it would be great if I personally had some kind of integrated messaging system. So because there's a lot of places to check.
There is. And actually, I'll even use the show as an example. Like you and I, like depending on our guest, we have to like, we try to meet the guests, again, you try to meet them where they spend the most time. And there are people that like we have a very specific process of how, I'm going to say it's strict, but like we have a process of how we message our guest. And the thing is, some guests are on a different platform.
Right.
And so I like the idea of having a unified, like having a lot of the like unification there. I think the hardest part though is this is where it gets tricky. If you're using like WhatsApp or you're using Facebook, you're using Instagram, for example, and you're getting notifications, like half the time I'm like, oh, I'm just too busy to do stuff. So like, I don't have time to go check that notification. Right. And then at that point I may have missed it, for example, or, you got so bit like, because it's easy, for example, it's easier to pull up Facebook on the desktop versus WhatsApp. It's easier to pull up Facebook and WhatsApp on the desktop, Instagram, not so much, for example. And so I like the idea of like, and this, I guess, is where like having like a social media management dashboard tool, like having an Agora Pulse is super helpful because it does help unify some of those things.
Right.
But I do like the fact though that Facebook's trying to move to unify things. I mean, because really, if you really think about it, I mean, Instagram and Facebook aren't that much different.
They aren't. And
like
I do.
The mobile version of Instagram is like the mobile version, what the mobile version of Facebook should be.
Right. But you can't share links. You can't, there's limits.
Yeah.
And I use Messenger for Instagram on desktop.
Yeah.
So IG message I use on desktop more than on my phone. So and the notifications, it's easy to miss notifications that pop up. There's so many, right? I've got LinkedIn notifications coming in on my phone. I've got Twitter. I have for multiple accounts, and it's so much noise. Everything seems like it's flashing red. It means that nothing is important, right? Yeah. So,
By the way, I have two quick things actually. One is so kind of adding adding this, making it even more difficult. So for example, on iOS 15, there's a new focus mode. And so you remember, like normally you get a notification, it'll pop up on your screen, right? And then after that, what was also happening was, okay, so like if you were on Do Not Disturb, you could swipe down and you could see the notifications. However, on iOS 15, when you put focus mode on and you swipe down, you have no notifications.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet. I've seen it.
Yeah. So,
I've seen it. I haven't dared put it on yet. So yeah.
I'm still kind of getting used to it. Like I missed a whole bunch of things because I had turned it off and I was like, that's weird. I was like, I'm not seeing it now. And it's like, it's still there. It's just not there until you go out of focus mode.
Right.
So that's really fascinating. And then just overall, I mean, the fact that you remember, how like in design, a lot of times people try to do like a minimalist design of things. That's another thing where like, I do wonder, I don't feel like a lot of users on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, like, I don't really think they understand what all Facebook owns. And so as a result, for example, if they're getting a notification on Facebook or they're getting one on Instagram or they're getting one on WhatsApp, like there's so many places you have to go check. Like, was it a profile notification? Was it a page notification? Was it an Instagram notification? Was it a WhatsApp notification? Was it a WhatsApp business notification?
Right.
So, but I like that at least I do like the idea that they're at least unifying this. Okay. So now as a business, what do I need to do for this? Is there anything I should do? What do you think?
Right now, I don't think there's anything you need to do. I would encourage businesses to go to their Facebook Business Suite because that's where you can integrate everything. So all of your business pages can be managed through Business Suite. And I use Creator Studio a lot for posting to Instagram and posting to Facebook. And I can schedule things out. So I highly recommend, if you're a business who's not in Creator Studio and Business Suite, to definitely go there. And on top of that, all of those things that you find missing from your business page on the Facebook app right now are most likely in Business Suite. So it's been years, Facebook has been trying to push us to Business Suite and has been giving us little carrots like, hey, in Creator Studio, you can schedule your Instagram posts. You can do these fun things. And now, as of July 1st, The reason why you're not seeing notifications or you're not seeing messages is because Facebook is stripping them out of Pages and making you go to Business Suite. So go to Business Suite. That's what I would say. Yep. It's a lot easier there. It's a lot easier there. For the personal messaging, you may have to wait a little while. I don't know when or how this is going to roll out. They didn't really say in the announcement about the cross messaging, but I'm sure soon we're going to see, oh, I can add that Facebook friend if I'm sharing something if I'm messaging through Instagram. So
awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So do we have another topic we want to talk about? What's your or up to you? I mean, because I know we want to make sure we value people's time, and I know we also want to get those questions. So
yes. So we have Facebook is also adding to their community, their fun tools that they have for building community in Facebook groups. So they're adding community awards. So that's another announcement for this week. This sort of supplements the top fans, the badges. Over the summer, they had the experts. So when you're in a group, the group manager can tag someone as an expert so that folks in your group know that the admins of that group feel like this person has good information to share and should be, you can trust what they're going to say in the group. Nice. So these are just some more fun things to do to create a more engaging experience in the groups, which I have to say, Facebook has really been doing well on groups in this last year. And so it's a nice little perk to add to people. The next one you have, we have to thank someone for a super chat.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Oh, Eileen, Miss Eileen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very cool. We appreciate this, Eileen. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. So next announcement, season 2 of Social Skills. Now, I have to admit, I did not know that there was a season 1 of Social Skills. So this is in Facebook for Business. What they've been doing is profiling some great case studies behind the scenes of social media creators, showing how they, what their work process is, how they go through using the tools, how they really push the pages to be as great as they can be and use all the tools that Facebook offers. So this is a great way for you to see how different tools are working, some behind the scenes things of some of the bigger brands. I think in the past they've had GoPro profiled and some of the big ones that we all like. So it's a great way to improve your professional knowledge about Facebook. So, and if you're not checking in with Facebook business tutorials and things like that, it's a tremendous resource to learn about Facebook. We have talked about Facebook Blueprint in the past. And so it's just a great way to learn about Facebook. And it's free. So if you want to take the tests to get certified, I think there's a fee to that, but really Facebook for Business is awesome. Next announcement, we have been waiting for Clubhouse. Clubhouse announced a lot of things. I thought
you were going to talk Twitter profiles. Sorry. Okay.
I'm not going to talk. You're going to talk Twitter profiles.
I'll take that one. Yes.
But Clubhouse. So this makes me excited about Clubhouse again, right? They're going to have universal search. So you can search for people in rooms and future events and things like that. They're going to let you clip things. Like you can clip if someone said something great, you can clip that last 30 seconds and share it out. Nice. They're going to do something about spatial audio. I'm not really sure what that means, but they're going to have replay. So that means that Clubhouse is going to have a recording option and you can listen to a Clubhouse, a room after it's done. So this has been I've had a busy summer. I haven't really been able to listen to Clubhouse. I see the little notifications for my favorite people going live on Clubhouse. And I just sort of say, oh, well, I'll never hear that because I'm busy. I can't join in right now and even listen to something. I need to focus on what I'm doing. So the recording, I think, is a huge piece, a huge improvement to Clubhouse, and will for sure make me use it more. Christian, how do you feel about that?
I think that, well, I like the idea of like the replay. I like a lot of these features that Clubhouse is adding. I think the key thing when you're mentioning all of this, the one thing that's just going off in my mind is there's so many channels that are like doing all, like they're offering little ways to do this already. Kind of like, hey, I can clip video, for example, and then I can easily strip the audio or things like that. I think, again, I think Clubhouse makes a lot of sense to be able to have these tools.
Yep.
Maybe what'll end up happening. I mean, I think the key thing is maybe they'll end up acquiring somebody, to kind of keep themselves top of mind. But yeah, I like this a lot. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, remember they have an exclusive connection with the TED Talk speakers.
Yeah.
So the audio only for TED Talk speakers is only Clubhouse. Right. So my question is, and this was brought up in one of the blogs that we read to prepare for the show, is will Twitter Spaces, this isn't launched yet, this is just Clubhouse saying we're going to have replay. So the question is, will Twitter Spaces beat them to the recording and replay before? Because we know Twitter has to be working on this, right?
And
so
I think the other key thing is the pockets. How deep are those pockets? So for example, I know Twitter's they've got the cash to be able to do that. And they got the manpower. The workforce. I don't know if Clubhouse has that. Like, is Clubhouse, who are they backed by, for example? Do they have the ability to roll something out faster? They may be able to, because remember, that's the key thing. We talked about this, I think, on a past episode where we talked about, how being a small company does help you because it helps make you a lot more nimble versus at Twitter, for example, they got a lot going on. It might not just be the Spaces team. It may be a whole bunch of other, because again, they're also beholden to shareholders as well. So,
right.
So, I don't know, this will be really fascinating. So we have that in terms of some social media news. I'm going to give Sara a break here, and I'm going to switch to one other topic that I want to talk about real quick. And that is Twitter professional profiles. And this could be a whole topic in itself, but basically Twitter is rolling out for brands and creators the ability to apply for professional Twitter profiles. Now, I'm going to put this full screen so you can see this. And basically, I mean, what this kind of tells me is that Twitter's looking to make Google My Business profiles is what this looks like. Up one side, down the other. You got an about page. You got to map your business. You got a website for your business link, for example. That's what this screams to me. I don't know, Sara, what do you think about this?
I agree. I think it's going to be much more of a directory. My question is, Twitter's had a really hard time with verification process. They opened up the verification process early summer. When was it? Maybe early summer. They had to close it.
Or they reopen it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they had to close it so fast because they were so flooded that they couldn't keep up. So it's interesting. I'm wondering if it'll be easier. I think Google My Business is a huge sleeper, that there's a lot of power to it.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So many people aren't keeping up to date on their Google My Business listings, especially small businesses, which is really still a very critical time for us to keep our business information up to date, because people are really relying on that if they're traveling, or if they just want to know if their favorite restaurant is open on any given day, right? We've laughed about some of the places I'm in that everything is closed on Mondays. It's like being in France, everything is closed on Mondays.
No, exactly. No, and that's an excellent point, because and again, like if I love the idea of Twitter professional profiles. I love the idea of that. I'm still surprised that they've not been able to get the verification process down. Everyone else seems to be able to have a verification process that works. Theirs doesn't. I'm not exactly sure why. But you also, we're going to go back, we're going back in time right now. So in the days of, I want to say it was it Foursquare? I'm trying to think, was it Foursquare, Gowalla? I think it might've been Foursquare actually. And they had it where you had to get a card sent to you to verify your business. I can't remember which company it was.
It was Foursquare.
It didn't work very well, but
It didn't work very well. I will say it was about a year ago. Was it a year ago or 2 years ago? No, it was last year. I had to get verified for Facebook ads because one of my clients works in gender equity. And because we were posting about what Facebook believed were social issues, and they are social issues, let's be honest, they are social issues. I had to verify myself as a real entity to manage the ads on that account. So that was, you need to upload I had to upload my ID, then Facebook had to mail me something, and that had the code on it. And so it's still happening. It's still happening. And is it clunky? Yeah, but it works, right? It's kind of like when Google calls, right? You know, when you have to do something to verify something with Google,
or Amazon,
nobody answer the phone.
Right, exactly, because it's like you miss it, and it's like, oh my gosh, now I got to wait for it again. And but here's the thing. So the bottom line is this. I think that businesses need to be like, brands and creators can apply for Twitter professional profiles. I think that if you hear us say this all the time, go where your customers are at. So if Twitter is where your customers are at, go ahead and apply for that brand. If you're a brand and creator, go and apply for that Twitter professional profile. And here's the thing, just have for the most part, have all your stuff ready. Like, it's not that hard. Have your business location ready, have your logo ready, for example, your phone number, like get all of that stuff updated for those accounts. If that's where you're going to use it, you know, and if, for example, if Google My Business if you're a physical like business, you should have a presence on Google My Business. It doesn't take very much to set it up. I'm actually a pretty highly like high level like Google local guide, for example. I can actually even help with that. So again, I mean, if you're a business, you need to be making sure you take some of these steps and making sure, like, for example, your customers, they're not going to like, they're going to Google Maps to look up your business. They're going to Google to look up your business. They very likely are not going directly to your website to get the information. And so you want to make sure, if it were me, this is where a pyramid is actually a good thing. I would look at it and say like, hey, if this is my business at the top, I need to be putting all of my stuff on Google Maps and the mapping applications that people are using, and then making sure that it trickles down to my website so that people are able to get that information right off the bat. Don't fret over like a little bit of traffic not coming to your website, because again, it's a building block. So,
Yet.
Yeah.
What we learned this week, don't have everything on one platform either.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. You know, a lot of people are renting space on Facebook and they lost their whole storefront this week for a day. And it was a Monday, right? Half the world was asleep. One of my friends in the Philippines reminded us all that, he said, you know, let's remember that half the world was asleep when this happened. It's just people in North America that really got all bunched up about it. So in Europe for that, you know, Europe was still evening time. But for much of the world, they were all asleep. They didn't even notice that it happened. So
let's do this. So let's talk about, can we take like 5 minutes? I think we got 5 minutes, right?
Let's we got 5 minutes.
Mitigating social media risk.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? So I'm going to turn that one over to you. Like, what does it mean? Like, okay, so like, what does it mean when I say, you know, mitigating social media risk?
Right. It means that if you are building your business online, you know, we can use me as an example. I haven't needed a website yet. I'm now at the point where I need a website for my consulting business because I actually work in-house at places, right? But I do some consulting work. And so now I'm at the point where, yes, I do need a website because all the funnels need to come back in. I just can't use LinkedIn. I just can't use Facebook anymore. There's now a need for all of this. And for businesses that have had websites that haven't been updating, there was one business I was really surprised. They're very active on social media, and I needed to find something on their website. And I go to the blog and there's nothing there. There's nothing updated. There's nothing there. So this is a property that you own. You know, you own your website. You own your email list, so that if any one of these platforms disappears tomorrow, you can still get in touch with people, right? And you don't have to build, it doesn't have to get fancy with contact forms and all these other kinds of things. If you have an invoicing system or just your contact list, that's the beginning of an email list to reach out to people. So I think it's important to have contingencies of how you're going to reach people and to own pieces. And I think you and I both agree on that, right?
No, I definitely think we do. And I want to actually go back to the point you just talked about, which is you talked about like if the thing went away, like, and when you say like went away, like we think like that it went away forever, right? But looking back on this week, it was only down for a day and a half, and then it takes a little bit of time to obviously come back up. And there's a lot that can happen in that time if people cannot get in touch with your business. And this is why, for example, it's so important to have it's important to have a Google My Business presence. Because, for example, if I wanted to get a business's phone number and if Facebook was the only social media platform that they were on, I couldn't get to your page. So, for example, I couldn't get to your page, but if you had a Google My Business profile, at least I could see you had a phone number, for example, or you had a website. So I knew what that next step was versus what do I do now? Because like if you were, for example, if Sarah and I were just communicating back and forth over like Messenger with the client, for example, then how would you'd have to have the person's phone number saved. Sometimes people only keep that stuff in Messenger, for example, as silly as it sounds. So, definitely taking those steps. Now, one question I do have. So like, okay, so you talk about like a business owns their website. What if it's a Squarespace site or what if it's a Wix site?
This is true. And, you don't own where your website is. If we saw what happened,
almost like you have a title. Is that kind of like
a
deed to the property maybe or something?
We saw what happened if Facebook goes down, right? Imagine if AWS went down, if Amazon Web Services went down. That would be really catastrophic for businesses, right? And how do you reach people? Because a lot of people, I don't save the phone number for my plumber. I look it up on Google My Business, right? So, Squarespace, you have to think about what the risk is in having those rented properties. So Wix, Squarespace, we all know all the others that have those templated pieces. Your website only exists if it's there. I mean, I worked at a web agency where we would have people call and say, well, my nephew said he'll build a Squarespace site. It's like, okay, well, that's great. That's a great way to start getting online. But if you want those files backed up, if you want to be able to port over to someone else, if you want to add a tool that doesn't exist on Squarespace, then a custom website is probably what you need, right? And you may not need, we were a pretty boutique firm and we're building all these very complicated web apps on Symfony and other platforms or other coding languages. But we did have some WordPress websites that we were building too. And that was great for small business entry. So I don't know what the answer is to the Squarespace question, honestly. I know it works great for a lot of businesses. It doesn't work for all of them. We could use the same argument about Etsy, right? I found that a favorite jeweler that I follow from Canada now has his entire shop on Etsy, right? And so
and you run into the same issue,
if Etsy goes down, will it inhibit? It may inhibit the new customers that are trying to reach you.
Right.
I guess that's what I would say is any of these platforms go down, it may stop you acquiring new people, but your loyal fans and customers will be there when it comes back and will understand, oh, Etsy is down. I can't buy something today. I will come back tomorrow because I love this brand and I love this person. So there is that. I think it's important to train your customers. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with Rich Brooks, right? And it was something that that I've worked with colleagues who work very closely with HVAC and plumbers and electricians, right? They train their customers on how to reach them in an emergency, right?
Yeah.
That it's not necessarily tweeting at us or direct messaging on Instagram. It's you need to call if you have an emergency with your heating system or you have a pipe burst and it's flooding your building, you need to call us because our dispatchers are trained to do calls, prioritize calls first, right?
Yeah.
And all of these other messaging apps that we've been talking about during this show may not feed into that one dashboard that dispatcher needs to respond to the emergency. So it's partly training your audience, training your customers on how you prefer to contact and respond to things. So,
and one last point I want to add real quick to that is, it's the fact that when somebody is like you're trying to train a customer, for example, like, so you talked about building a website. And websites don't have to be complicated. However, like at the same time, you don't want to go completely minimalist, which is, I don't want to have really nothing on the site, but hey, I want to just have like a website domain. You need some of the fundamentals in the off chance that Facebook or Twitter, YouTube, or any of those platforms go down. Again, you could just have your website, like right now, it could just be an archive where you do something online and then you're building the archive on your website, for example, as a backup. So it doesn't have to be like super complicated, but you want to make sure you do have, some of that stuff there. And again, I mean, we talked about this. This goes back to your example you mentioned at the beginning, Sarah, and that was like you gave me the example of the cupcake. We're talking about cupcakes, not for breakfast, but like we're just talking about cupcakes, and we're talking about it because, again, like we've wanted to redo the overlays and some of the graphics for the show, and we just again using the cupcake as an example. Let me turn to you. Can you
sure. So I use this analogy. I do a lot of event planning and program building, right? And we know that there is a core element that you have to have, and that's the cupcake, right? People are expecting cake, right? Whether it's an event or a live stream or a newsletter or whatever product they're going to get from you, they expect that core element of a cupcake, and cupcakes have frosting, right? So you need some kind of it's a cupcake. It needs to be a little fancy, meet that expectation, right? But then on top of that, you can add fondant, you can add airbrushing, you can add sprinkles. So what I say with event planning especially is that, sprinkles come after we get the cupcake baked and it's cooled and frosted, right? Then we can add the sprinkles. No one knows that you wanted champagne flavored pink sprinkles on your cupcake. But if they get the cupcake and the frosting and maybe a little bit of sprinkle, they're really happy with it, right? So no one knows that we plan to have this beautiful border around us and we want to do these other fun things in StreamYard with the show until we launch it, right? And it's the same with your business. No one knows that you plan to roll out certain products until you announce it and start to do it. So it's sort of like some of these news items that we had today, like Clubhouse is saying that they're going to roll out. One of the news topics that we didn't get to was TweetDeck is saying that they are adding new features to TweetDeck. Well, I still don't have the old features that they announced, the old new features, right? That they announced back in May. I still don't have that on TweetDeck. So my expectation was, well, TweetDeck, you now are saying that you have 2 layers of new rollouts, new features, and I don't even see the first rollout. So setting those expectations, training your customers is really important, right?
Absolutely.
Did I answer that question with the cupcake?
Yeah. I think you did. I mean, I'm hungry. It's almost lunchtime. No, I think you did actually. And I think that I think the key takeaway, just kind of like for us to wrap things up is, again, we aren't saying don't use the social platforms. We think you should, but you want to make sure you have a contingency plan, that you have a backup in the off chance that something does go down. for example, all those people that rely just on Facebook as their main drive, like if you sell products, for example, and that's how you mostly generate revenue, and you sell them through a Facebook shop on your Facebook page, or you're running ads on, links back to things, that stuff didn't work for literally a day plus. And that may not be a lot to some people, but like if that's your whole business, and something like that goes down, you need to make sure you have a website so that people know where to go. Like they're going to look up your business, and then like if they know your Facebook page isn't working, they should hopefully go to your website, because that should rank very high for that business name. So the key takeaway is still use the social platforms, but have a backup plan in place in the off chance that something does happen. Don't build on rented land. We say this every single time. Don't build on rented land. We don't say don't use the rented land. Just don't put your house like it's like if you want to put your house on like quicksand, for example, it's slowly, it would potentially be slow. I guess it's maybe a bad example, but like it's slowly sinking.
You're right.
So you don't know, like, maybe I should have given the example of like building your house next to the beach. Like if you built your house right on the coastline, it's a great view, for example. You're on prime real estate essentially. However, it does, it costs more to run your business. For example, you've got higher insurance, things like that, because you literally live right next to water. And so you never know, like every time there's a storm, like there's always something you're going to have to worry about. However, if you do build a little further inland, you can still go to the beach, but you have, a layer essentially protecting you in the off chance that, something does happen, such as Facebook going down this week. Is there anything else you want to add, by the way, on this?
I think we did have a funny comment. NLTMW says, I don't even know my kids' phone numbers from memory, right? So it is, make sure that you have backups. I'm sure NLTMW knows how to reach children in case of emergency, but there were a lot of families in India that didn't, right? They only use WhatsApp. So how do you find someone if that's the only way? So if your contact list only lives on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you need to back that up. You can't download Facebook, but you can download.
You can download LinkedIn. Actually.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
If you go to your Facebook profile, by the way, this is why you also connect your profile. If you go into your Facebook account, there is a way under settings to be able to download your entire profile. So you have the photos, the things like that you're sharing versus having to go into them individually. It literally downloads a whole spreadsheet of.
Right. You can get your data. You can get your data, but you can't get your friends list. Right? I don't think
I haven't checked it in a while.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah.
We haven't checked it out. But LinkedIn, about once a year, I download my LinkedIn contact list. So, and NLTMW does say, beware of Wix. So borrowed or free land. So things are free for a reason. And when you pay for something, you get more levels of security for it. So
you do.
Yeah. But, it's like backing up your hard drive too. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's like, just because you back it up, you may not need it necessarily, but then there comes a time where you may need it. So at least you have the backup. Like it may seem like, oh, you know what? Hey, that's an extra, like if you're building a website, it's an extra cost for me to build a website. It's something extra to maintain, but you also have to think about it long-term.
Right. What's the business expense of not having it?
Yeah. And the business loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fantastic.
Great. Well,
okay. Well, just a couple of quick notes, by the way. So we are going to have a blog post recap that is going to go out over the weekend, socialchefs.com/SC312. We are working to get Amanda back on another show. She's been working on some client work. She just messaged me and said, she's going to book again. So we're going to get her on. We're going to make sure we get her on hopefully before end of year.
Right. And hopefully we can tease her, because we know that Amanda has Ray-Ban stories.
Yes.
And she is based in Canada, so she doesn't have Facebook Reels yet. So hopefully by the time we get her back, she can show us how her Ray-Ban stories have been contributing to her Reels content.
I can't wait to see this. So hopefully Facebook doesn't release another version of Ray-Ban stories before then, but they looked pretty cool. I did watch the unboxing of them. They look pretty cool. I got to say the quality, like the look was so much better than Snapchat spectacles.
Right.
They looked like sunglasses I would wear. So
yeah.
Because
so they are sunglasses you would wear.
Exactly. So with that, Sarah, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
So the best place to reach me, all of my social media handles are at Sara Munro VT. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, drop a note, let me know that you saw me on Social Chatter, and I'd be happy to connect with you.
Fantastic. And I am Christian Kirasevich, and you can connect with me at Social Chefs on all the social media platforms. But with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been a great episode. We're going to be joined next Thursday by Scott Ayers. Scott Ayers, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's going to join us. Again, same channels, youtube.com/social chefs, facebook.com/social chefs. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. We'll see you all later. Bye.